Hey friend, I'm so glad you're here today. You are in for something special today. I have my dear friend and mentor on the show today. Her name is Tammy Beasley, and she has been a dietitian for over 35 years. But Tammy and I actually connected the very first year that I was a dietitian, and this woman has been a guiding light to me throughout my entire career. And I just love her. I'm so honored that she's on the show today, guys. She has some incredible experience. She has been devoted to her clinical and leadership experience for eating disorder recovery for the bulk of her career. She has also been a sports dietitian in the past. She's got two boys. But one of the coolest things about her is that she was actually the first certified eating disorder specialist dietitian ever back in 1993. And then she paved the way for the rest of us dietitians. And so I'm really grateful to her and her work. One of the things she really prides herself on, and this shows up in all of her work, and I see it in the conversation that we have today, is that she has this mantra of do no shame. And she has shared that with the clients she works with clinicians like me that she has mentored. And I know just her friends, this is just who Tammy is. She really has this ability to diffuse shame and open up doors for curiosity, which is then we can get creative and then we can actually grow. Friend, I'm so glad you are here today. Hey, before we dive in, I want to let you know this episode is actually brought to you by Polar Joe. If you have not heard me talk about Polar Joe, let me be the first to introduce you to this delicious treat. Friends, they have taken my two favorite things, protein and coffee, and wrapped them up in one delicious beverage. Now, anytime I share Polar Joe, I like to say it like this. You will not think you're having a protein shake. You will think you're having an iced coffee. But what's really cool is that when we can sneak that protein, and it's a very pure, isolated way that is added to this protein coffee, it gives you not only kind of that energy bump that comes with coffee, but it also helps you actually fuel your body. So I am so on board for this. If you guys want to try a free sample, you can find it over on my website. We'll also link it in the show notes, and you can grab their $1 sample, see if you like it. And if you do, which I know you will, you can pick from all their different flavors that they have. All right, friends, without further ado, let's dive in to this awesome interview with my dear mentor, Tammy Beasley. Hey, I am Jess, and I'm obsessed with all things nutrition, science, and helping you navigate this information while maintaining a deep sense of peace and empowerment in your body. I'm a registered dietitian who started out with an eating disorder and then fell in love with learning about how God intricately designed our bodies to be resilient and so much more than superficially beautiful. I am now a mama who loves to be healthy, not because of how it makes me look, but because of how it has transformed the energy I can give to my family, my friends, and you. On this show, we hit on real talk around the latest nutrition science and body image resiliency, all while balancing it between grit and grace. Think of this as your weekly audio coffee to encourage your empowered eating journey. This is the Fuel Her Awesome podcast. Well, Tammy, I am so excited to have you here today. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
I am thrilled. I have literally sat just like going, when can I get on? When can I get on? Because you're one of my people. And
Oh,
I was very excited to see you.
well, you and I go way back, like to my first weeks of being a dietitian. I mean,
Wow. I don't know if I knew it was your first weeks. I
well,
just feel like
first
we have been
months.
so connected
Hmm.
for so long over so many seasons of my life.
And mine.
Yeah, it's been
Yeah.
very special. Right.
For me too. So to have you on here and be able to just ask you these questions and share this with the listeners, I know everybody listening is just in for such a treat. So for those of you that don't have the pleasure of knowing Miss Tammy Beasley just yet, let me just tell you, like her and I met, like I said, in the first, it wasn't weeks, I'm sorry, it was months of becoming a dietitian.
All the same.
All the same. Yeah, but man, I will tell you this, I had that first call with you and I had a new client and I was just entering the world of just dietetics and eating disorder treatment. And
Wow.
yeah,
A lot to enter in at one time. Yes.
yep. But you were someone that right away just spoke life into me, right away. Both life into
Thank
how
you.
I could support others, but also how I could be as a dietitian. And now now you do it as in my career, but also as a mom. I mean, we were just talking for 30 minutes before this about being mom to boys.
So fun. We're both boy moms of two boys,
Hmm.
and it's quite the ride. And I think that's like some of my favorite conversations that you and I have had.
Me
I
too.
remember traveling for work and receiving a call from you in the middle of something that I had to like, oh, I'm taking this call. And I remember having to like say, I'll be back and walking out. And we had this really solid, amazing conversation. You were really struggling
Hmm.
with a client that you felt like I have not accomplished anything with this client. And
Hmm.
we had such a good conversation around that.
Hmm.
That one really sticks out to me. So
Me too,
I
because
think of you
I
often.
Oh, same. It's the same. Well, okay, so we're going to share some of your wisdom here today, which
Okay.
I know we're just going to grab a piece of it, but anyone that's listening and wants to continue to follow Tammy, we're going to link everything in the show notes because she is a wealth of information and there's just so much we can glean from her. But before we dive into some of what we're talking about today, Tammy, can you just give us some background about what's flamed your passion for approaching a broken relationship with food? I mean, you're so gifted at helping people repair this relationship, but where did that come from?
I think the passion that I have, that is really, I feel like, has made sense of my entire career to this point came from reading a book during a period of my life over the past 2 years in which I was living through a lot of professional trauma and it had affected me personally. The name of the book, Dr. Bruce Perry and Oprah Winfrey are co writers. It's called What Happened to You. I remember starting to read that book. I could not put it down. Not only was it speaking to me personally, because he basically walks through Oprah's trauma with her in a way that was so approachable, made so much sense. I was having light bulbs go off for myself and just like, oh, that's where that reaction came from. And oh, that's why that felt right. And that's why that did not feel right. But I
Mhm.
started thinking, this is our client. This is our client. All I could think about is the question. It's not just what happened to you, it's what happened to you and food. What
Mhm.
happened? And then I think back to my story, my eating disorder recovery story overlapped um, 3 years of being a baby dietitian. I was not in the eating disorder world. The
Mhm.
amount of shame and guilt in holding this secret. And I
Mhm.
thought of myself way back when, like, oh, Tammy, what happened to you in food? Food became identity and worth and all enmeshed with who I was and who I was supposed to be. And so I think it was very healing to myself. And then it just led me to go deep into that thinking that is there another relationship any more intimate than our relationship with food? We we meet food every day,
Mhm.
whether we're alone or in a group or in a family, every day. It is our nourishment of our body, mind, and soul. So it is
Yes.
as intimate of a relationship as it possibly could be.
So good. Yeah. And when it's that intimate and then it's severed or broken at some
Yes.
point,
Yes.
we bring so much more than just like our mouth to the plate, right? Like we bring our
Exactly.
story, our history. So you mentioned
Everything.
shame
Yes.
and uncovering shame. So can you elaborate more on the role of shame in our relationship with food and our bodies?
Oh, I think it is that deep, dark, bottomless pit, black hole
Hmm.
that haunts us. We allow it to um, suck us in and suck us dry. I don't know how else to put it. Shame is the root to me of every part of a dysfunctional food relationship.
Hmm.
It's and again, shame, it's very different from guilt. Guilt is something that you did against your values that needs to have, healing.
Hmm.
Shame is you are the problem.
Hmm.
you are the fault. Your person, everything about you. And when I think of shame and our body response to shame, just thinking of my response, shame makes me look away from people. It makes
Mm,
me look down. It makes me shut my eyes and hide.
mm,
And I think of isolation, lack of connection, loss of vulnerability, authenticity, all of those things. Um, so to me, shame lives in the secrets, and we're all flawed. I mean, that we're humans. Um, but shame, again, we are not we are not the problem.
hmm.
It's our belief, our thoughts, our behaviors, but not us
Yeah.
as wonderful humans that
Yeah.
and I think separating that out, I think that's what makes a food relationship that's built on good bad list so
Hmm.
dangerous,
Hmm.
because it's inevitable to immediately assume if I ate something from my quote bad list, I must be bad.
Hmm.
And it's very hard to separate that. The healing comes with self-compassion.
Hmm.
Um, it's my favorite thing to talk about.
That's so, as you describe that, I mean, what I love is you really make space for how devastating carrying shame can be. And I think so often people do carry shame and not even recognize it as shame. And when
So
we,
much. Yes,
yeah, and
so
when we
much.
don't do that, then when we can't identify it, when we don't even know it's there, then we keep trying to go and change things. And
Right.
we've got this negative narrative perpetuating the cycle in our head.
Exactly. I often say that my brain has like Velcro tabs of shame that are just waiting to like attach to anything that runs by, and it's like, and then to literally have to pull that shame Velcro apart. But what I have learned about myself, and I mean, we have to always constantly be working on ourselves. Um, I think that's so important. But what I have learned is to recognize um, that feeling of isolation is a sign for
Mm,
me. Like because I love people, when I close in and hide, I may not know what's happening, but it's at least something that makes me go, whoa, wait a minute, what's going on here?
yeah.
And another thing that my sweet husband has learned the hard way is that when I become very critical of him, it's not of other people, but it's of him, because he's my
Interesting.
safe space. He's
Mm,
somebody I can push, I can criticize, but I'm trusting that he's not going to leave me. But I can lay it in and lay it on hard. And
wow.
he has learned, again, we had to learn this the hard way, but the most precious moment of our marriage is when I'm in that shame cycle. Criticalness is coming out in, everything from, you didn't take the garbage out today. You said you
Yeah.
would. I mean, silly things.
Yeah. Yeah.
It'll build up, and more often than not, he will stop and go, okay, what do you feel shame about? And when he
Wow.
does that, I usually just like break into tears, like, how did you know? And he's like, well, I've kind of learned it over time. And,
Yeah.
bless his heart, because, it's hard to take someone being critical, but it's for both of us, it's a sign that I'm struggling. And
Wow.
it's a way to literally intentionally stop, see what's happening, apologize, reset, bring in some self compassion, and again,
Wow.
ask an apology when it's
Yeah.
necessary.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
Hold on. Let's park here for a second because
okay.
that's big. I mean, that's some clear isolation. That's a pretty clear
Yes.
indicator. When we start
Yes.
to retreat and pull away
Mhm.
from folks, that's a
Mhm.
sign we might be operating in that shame cycle.
Yes.
Um, but then this projection that we might do, right?
Yes.
Criticizing others, probably the people that we love most. Like this is going to take some setting of the ego down and looking
Yes, it
at
is.
our own
Yeah.
process. And first of all, kudos to your husband for
I
being
know, I know. Such a
amazing.
blessing, such a blessing. He is the most even-spirited peacemaker.
I
I'm the
love
real
it.
volatile one. I'm the, super high, super low,
And
and
he's
we're a good partnership. Yeah.
that's so great. That's how my husband and I are. Like,
Yeah, I would assume so.
yeah, you never know what you're going to get when I walk in. Like, it could have been the best day of my life or the worst day of my life. But my husband
Exactly.
is the same no matter what. He's like, it was good. It was cool.
Yep. It's
I think
good.
maybe
Yeah.
3 times in our last 17 years, he had a rough day, if that.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Sometimes I'm like, can you just not be so even
I
keeled?
know.
I know. How do
I'm
you
like,
do that?
don't you want to get worked up about something?
Something.
Yeah.
Exactly. I feel like, the criticalness, I hate it. Like, I hate it when I hear it happening, when I hear myself being that, but it's reflecting off that mirror of how critical I'm being to myself.
Sure.
And it's how critical I'm being to myself on external things,
Sure.
not an internal thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's just
So
that
good.
mirror, and you have to just recognize that it's reflecting off of really my own shame,
Yeah.
which is feeling so heavy that I'm trying to avoid dealing with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
hard to look at that stuff. It's really hard. So
It
I'm
really is.
thinking of folks who may not either their husband had a bad day and doesn't have the patience for that, or perhaps they don't have someone that reflects
Yeah.
that kind of love and grace that your husband does. What can we do, and what how do you work with folks on breaking free from that shame once they see it happening, but
Right.
maybe don't have that specific person saying just what
Right.
your husband says, which is so beautiful, but he's
It
had some
is.
experience, right?
And he's had some experience, and he's learned it the hard way. I will say that. Um, I think, giving yourself space when you're in a space outside of the shame cycle, take a little time and think through, like, I know how I show up in shame. I
Mhm.
think that does help.
Mhm.
Um, so that you begin recognizing that when I isolate from relationships, when I say no to breakfast with a dear friend,
Mm.
something's up. I
Mm.
think that's important. But honestly, another book that I was reading for work professional purposes that became a life giver to me is Kristen Neff. It's, I think, 2015. It's been around a bit. Dr. Kristen Neff, Self Compassion.
Mm.
It has another byline to the title, but self compassion will get you to that book. And she gives 3 simple steps that I'm truly not kidding. I have practiced these steps, and the important thing is don't what I've had to give myself grace around is I don't have to feel better. Like,
Mm.
I can say these 3 steps. I can take myself through the 3 elements of self-compassion, which I'll share in just a second. And I can do it as an exercise. I don't have to muster up this great feeling of like, oh, you're fine.
Mm.
That's important because I couldn't
Mhm.
do that really. It's the rewiring of the brain, the thought process. But the 3 things that I find myself now intuitively just going to when I'm feeling this shame is, first one, literally telling myself, this is hard.
Mm.
That's
Mhm.
that's element one. And it's like, wow, this really stinks. Like what I went through work wise, that was such a trauma period of time for me that got me through a lot of times, just saying this is so hard, and
Mhm.
just saying that. And the second one is, I'm not alone,
Mm.
and it's common connection. I'm not the first to feel this. And it's not saying that, oh, get over it, this happens to everyone. It's saying, I am not alone. Others have felt this.
Mhm.
I have felt this before. I'm not alone. And the
So
third is, I'm curious. Um,
mm.
and the third is really more of a space where you're like, if you can, I can just say, I'm curious what was going on. And that's when I usually can go, when did that happen?
Mhm.
Oh, 2 days ago, I got that email that I really took personally,
Mhm.
or, I felt shame about my body for what, that I'm curious. That's where it started. But what I love about what Kristen Neff says around that curiosity place, she calls it mindfulness. But what I love is that she says it's not thinking more of or less of yourself or what happened. And I get the not thinking less of yourself or less of that because it was a hard, difficult thing. But I really resonated with not thinking more of yourself for, and what I mean by that is being a what do you call it, recovering perfectionist.
Mhm.
I can, something good can happen, something like I can have days without shame, and then I'm like, yes, I've done this, I've got it in the bag, totally good now.
Yeah.
Or something, again, something amazing happened, and then we judge ourselves by our best moment. I
Mm.
think there's so much beauty in not judging
Mm.
yourself by your worst or your best.
Mm.
Because living up to that standard of the best, my shame's going to plummet super fast as soon as I struggle with a presentation, or as soon as I am sitting across from a client and I'm just not feeling on my game.
Mhm.
That's when I'm like, the shame is even worse because I'm comparing it to my very best moment. Does that make
Mhm.
sense?
It's so good. Yeah, you said so much gold in there. I want to unpack some of
Yeah.
it. So much
Okay.
gold. Okay, so the one of the very first things you said was like when you catch yourself in this shame cycle, just asking yourself, how do I show up in shame? So some of the
Yeah.
self-awareness is
Yes.
key.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes we need people to help us find
Oh,
that,
absolutely.
right?
Danny's the one, my husband's the one that actually recognized that when I'm very critical, he connected it to really coming out of deep shame.
No,
So I wouldn't have noticed that, but
if he
he
hadn't said it.
recognized it first. Yeah.
Now, did he use the word shame? Like, is that in his vocabulary? Because I'm thinking of my husband, who's he's very smart, but that's
Yeah.
not in his wheelhouse. Like, he doesn't think of that word. And so I'm just curious, was that what he used, or did he describe it in a different
Honestly,
way?
he used that
He
word,
did.
but
That's amazing.
he, when we met later in life, and both of us had been through, a lot of therapy, so
Okay.
he had some language for it, but he also heard me say it a
Say
lot.
it. Yeah.
I'm so
Yeah.
ashamed. I'm so ashamed. I failed. He was hearing that. Yeah.
I'm trying to think of what I think my husband would say, because I don't think he would use the word shame. Um, I
And
don't
it's shame is
know.
different from guilt.
Yeah, yeah.
It's really important to separate that because I've been guilty of things that needed healing and
Needed.
asking for forgiveness. And,
Sure.
that's a whole different thing. But shame is that, that iron chain and ball on your leg that you carry with you everywhere. It's a different feeling.
You know what I think he would pinpoint it as, and I wonder if other folks listening might find this as an easier like tip of the iceberg would be stress. Like I think my husband would
Mm.
say, "You seem stressed."
And
When
that's a good one. Yeah. Yeah.
because the times I'm stressed, if I pull that thread and like come to the end of that, it's probably related to something deeper.
Yes. I think that, staying with an S word, that
Yeah,
works.
stress,
Yeah.
shame, just checking out. Okay, so
Yes.
that was wonderful. And then you talked
Oh,
about this idea. Oh, go ahead.
another thing, I catch myself saying it now so much more, but the word should,
Should.
recognize how many times you say should. It's an exercise I love
Hmm.
doing with clients where they don't really know I'm doing this, but I will. I started with one particular client who uh, really dotted her I's and crossed her T's and was a
Hmm.
brilliant engineer. And her food journals, I didn't even ask for them, but I got like this beautiful, fully written out how I felt, hunger, fullness, everything I ate. And as she wrote out, it was constant. I should have this. I shouldn't have
Oh,
this. I shouldn't have.
Mhm.
And I started noticing, so I started just tallying, each week how many shoulds were coming. And then I recognized in about a month or so, there were less shoulds. And
Mm,
so I just brought it up to her, and I loved bringing out the tangible evidence and go,
that's so
you see a
cool.
difference here? And
Yeah,
she had not noticed that. And so should became her trigger, like her way to recognize the flood of
shame.
shame.
Yeah.
And then as she would say the word should, it would connect with shame. And she was able to say, I can,
Wow.
or I cannot, versus I should or should not.
Wow. So good. Yeah, I think that's something that is so tangible for folks to
Yes.
just watch their vocabulary
And
and
it's
say,
and it's again not anything that will be figured out overnight, but
no.
it's something that it's really worth the
But
time.
I love how you said like, okay, if we can find this awareness, like first, if we can say, am I isolating? I think
Yes.
my first therapist said, quit shooting on yourself. Like, are
Yes.
we
Yes.
shooting all over the place? And
Absolutely.
once we have that awareness, now we can go through these three steps that you talked about, which I thought were just so great. Like, number one is just acknowledging how hard it is. Like, this sucks. And so, how do
Yeah.
you help people, Tammy? Because oftentimes I'll have folks come in, the positive polys of the world, right? They'll come in and they're like, well, this is hard, but it's okay. Everything's good. Like, they don't
Yeah.
want to go to that space because they're afraid if they say it's hard, now we've opened something up. And
Right.
so, how do
Right.
you walk people through
Mm.
being okay with things not being perfect?
Can I say another book that everyone needs to read?
Love it. Yes. We're gonna have a list, a reading list after
Yes, a
this.
reading list. I mean, how do you go wrong with Brene Brown? But The Gift
Mhm.
of Imperfection was life changing for me. Life changing. Another one I could not put down. I think I always I'm trying to visualize sitting with a client, and I've had clients like this that just no, but I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm fine.
Mhm.
Everything.
Mhm.
I'm fine. Um, I usually get quieter
Mhm.
and say, I'm hearing this and I'm hearing this.
Mm.
Like, I'm hearing this is really hard, but I'm fine. And I'm hearing that. And, and I'll often bring in my own stories. I'll bring in
Mhm.
like, I recognize it because I've been there.
Yeah. Some
And,
empathy.
yeah. And then like, what if we stopped after this is hard before we say, I'm fine, and just pause? Let's
Mm.
pause for 10 seconds and like watch it on a walk, watch it.
Yeah.
And that's a very long 10 seconds.
Yeah.
But I think there's something about that being said in relationship with someone you trust and letting it kind of just hang there
Yeah.
without closing that door so fast.
Yeah.
And and then I think saying it's okay to not be fine.
Mhm.
You know, this is this is hard. And
Yeah.
I may just say it back to them and not add, you know, you are doing the hardest work there could be. Say
Yeah.
it's recovery from an eating disorder. This will feel almost impossible. This is hard. And stopping it there, um, repeating back to them without the I'm fine. I hear you. This is hard. And again, it's modeling. I think there's so much power in that. Um, I had a therapist friend who we were doing a presentation together, and I have this awe of therapists, like, oh, they they really, you know, can like go deep with the client and just really help heal those holes in the heart. And sometimes as a dietitian, I think she would hear me put, here I am doing the shame thing, put down the role of the dietitian when there's, like a lot of deep other issues going on, relational
Yeah.
issues going on. And she stopped and she said, I don't know if you know this or not, but the fact that you sit there with the client, even when you don't know what to say, and you're talking about the thing they're most afraid of, food and body, and you're a safe space and you just sit there with them. I don't think you realize how therapeutically healing that is.
Oh, wow.
And
Wow.
I remember going, really? It's like,
Wow.
and I've grabbed that and I pull it through a lot of times when I talk with younger dietitians and again, trying to, like, I'm not doing a good job. I'm not
Yeah.
saying the right thing. But you're there
But
and
you're
you're being
there.
safe space.
Yeah.
And you're talking about something that's their biggest fear and you're not running away. You're sitting there
You're
with
not
them.
criticizing.
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
not. And that's a big deal. And
Hmm.
we think about people who've done that for us in other
Hmm.
situations. It's very healing. And so I really have a lot of respect, I think, for just like if a client is really struggling with that's hard, but I'm fine. I'm going to be fine. And I can do this. Again, I think us as a clinician, they trust being quieter in that moment and just recognizing and connecting with the this is so hard
Hmm.
and you are working so hard and I just
Hmm.
want you to know I see that
That's
and
awesome.
letting it stay there
Oh,
um,
yeah.
does so much without adding even any more words to
You
that.
know, I could not agree. Well, and it's empathy is what you're getting, right?
Yes,
And that's the
yes,
antidote
yeah.
to shame. And I'm just thinking, actually, a conversation I had earlier this morning. Here's another book. We really are
Okay.
creating a reading list. 6 or 7 reading lists. I was talking to a new mom and she was working through some mom guilt. And there's a book called Carry It All. I cannot,
Ah,
is it, it's by Miss Ferris. I cannot remember her first name for
okay.
some reason.
Ooh, it
Um,
sounds awesome.
it's so good. But what she does is she pulls the data on essentially how hard it is to be a working mother in today's world because we are meshing the 1950s, 1960s, like nuclear approach to a family with this modern day opportunity that women have. And
Mhm.
it's hard to do because the expectations are really, really high. So anyway, the book, like, it was so healing for me to read because all it did was tell me how hard it was like,
Yeah,
this is why it's
yeah,
hard. It is really hard.
yes.
And it didn't fix anything. There was no like big resolution at the end, but it was just like,
Right.
it felt like somebody was looking at me going, Jess, you're tired because this is hard. Not because
Yes,
you're a failure or you can't do it all. It's just hard because it's hard.
because it's hard. I love that. And that's again where you also, whether you realize it or not, you brought in number two, common connection. You're not alone.
Hmm.
Like
Hmm.
somebody reading those words and you read those words and you're like, "Huh, she's saying the words that I live and feel, and she's saying
Hmm.
it. Someone else feels this.
Hmm.
There's just something really, really healing and connection.
Hmm.
So,
It's
yeah.
wonderful. Okay, I want to unpack the last piece that you put in there because I think
Okay.
it's so powerful. So the I'm curious and this idea of not judging yourself based on your worst moment, but also not based on your best moment. And I'm
Yeah.
thinking of all of us I say former, recovering perfectionists and overachievers. And how do you appreciate some of your best moments without letting that be the standard so that we don't get trapped in this shame spiral?
Hmm. What a great question. That is that has been probably the hardest part for me, to be honest, because as a perfectionist, it becomes the norm. It has to be that
Hmm.
way.
Hmm.
Um, I think somehow it does help to be able to raise up the super low moments and normalize those has really helped me, if that makes sense, has
Yeah,
helped
yeah.
me be able to go, wow, that really went well. Like the words came, that I felt very connected. That was maybe one of my best presentations, or that was a really good session with the client. And I think learning to appreciate the the temporariness of that,
Mm-hmm.
um, which is being in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's helped. It's a lesson that as parents, oh, it's so painful, but it's a lesson that we have to help our kids learn.
Mm-hmm.
Um, at sports, especially, you know,
Mm-hmm.
I remember that moment. The state championship is on the line, and it was to get into the state championship next level, final level playoffs. My oldest was the last at bat. He had the highest batting record. I mean,
Oh
like,
no.
won the award, hit it to the fence, and the outfielder caught it going over the fence. And the
Oh,
game was over.
oh.
Yes. And again, there's practice. I don't know
Mm-hmm.
how else to say it, but
Mm-hmm.
in that moment, knowing it was so important for me to be able to model that, not the lowest, not the highest. You're my son. You've
Yeah.
had amazing moments. You have the highest batting average and you've had the lowest moments. And neither one of those define who you are. You are so
Yeah.
much more than all of those.
Yeah.
And that may have gotten off on a tangent, but I know as a mom, it's been very important. So it's been in my face when
Yeah.
I've wanted to beat myself up for not being perfect at a goal or at an event. The practice of just having to model that and do it and say it for another person
Mm-hmm.
does help you.
Yeah.
It does help you.
That's so good, Tammy. Yeah. I mean, I'm even thinking of paralleling that to being a parent. And if, like, we said our experience as a parent was like the high or low of our kids' lives,
Yeah.
that wouldn't work out
Yeah.
very well. No, like we look at it as the whole journey, right? We don't look at
Right.
it as
Right.
it's like, okay, when they were newborns, that was a lot harder for me. And then when they were toddlers, that was a lot more fun for me. And I'm in a great season and about to hit some hormones. That might be a different season, right?
Yeah.
But my parenting experience is not these these moments, it's the whole story strung together. And I think you're actually hitting on a really strong chord is that when we
Yeah.
can debunk shame, we can like first acknowledge how hard it is, realize we're not alone, and then come to this place of curiosity. Then we can ask the question, like, I'm not a sum of my parts, I'm who am I really? And I think that's
Yes.
where the healing
Yeah.
is.
Exactly. You know, created in the image of God. We're
Mm-hmm.
created in the image of God. That's who we are. Um,
Mm-hmm.
we make mistakes,
Yep.
but who we are is that.
Yep.
Yeah. Um, very powerful. I
So
love it.
good.
There
So
was
good.
something that I would hear my husband say, and again, we've had some really great therapists. I'm very grateful for them. But I think he heard this from someone else, but he said, basically, maybe it wasn't the worst thing, but the most difficult burden we put on our kids is asking them to be who we weren't.
Yes, I've seen that
Yeah.
quote. Yes, I know
Yeah.
what you're talking about. Yes,
And
so
it's so
good.
true
It's so
because,
true
yeah, like our failures, not asking them to be perfect because we weren't,
because we
because
weren't.
they're going to make up for what we didn't do. I'm going to live it through them.
Yeah,
And Danny had to remind me of that a lot. Yeah,
yeah, it's so
we're
good.
all competitive in this family, but again, he's the even killed one, and
I
I'm
love
the,
it. Oh,
I'm the up
I
and down
love
one. So.
it. Okay, so Tammy, you have given us so many tools today. I think, the best one is this idea of true self-compassion. Like, yes,
Yeah,
getting your nails and your hair done should be a part of your self-care. If that's something you love,
absolutely.
yes, it should. But at the heart of it, it's these three steps that this is hard, I'm not alone, and I'm curious. It's
And
so
another thing with that I just read in another book, it was a deep clinical hard read, so I won't even mention the name. It took me a while to get through, but the difference in self-image and self-compassion. I
Mm,
had never thought of this.
mm,
Self-image is all based on the mind, what you think of yourself, your self-image in your mind and your thoughts.
hmm
It's not hard. And self-compassion comes from the heart, not the mind.
mm,
So you can still again, that's where self-compassion those three things that we can tell ourselves. We can say that even if we're still feeling like really icky,
Yeah. Yeah.
we're still sad, we're mad. I mean, all the emotions don't have to match up
Yeah.
to the words, whereas self-image, it's like it's an external thought that we're
Yeah.
trying to shift our thought. And somehow that really resonated with me. And I may be the last one on the block to know this, but I read that and I was like, wow, I had never thought of that. So and we know research supports that self-compassion is absolutely the antidote to reducing shame. Absolutely.
So good.
Research proves it. And
Hmm.
so if we can help our clients be more self-compassionate, their shame will reduce, which in turn will enhance their resilience in recovery. And the same thing happening for us.
Yeah.
So it's
That's
it's pretty magical. Yeah.
it's a crazy awesome snowball effect that
It
is
is.
worth
It
the
is. It's
energy.
one of those good snowballs. They're
Yeah,
not
there
always
are.
good, but that one's a good one.
That's a great one. Oh, Tammy, well, I told you we were not going to get through the whole list of questions.
Yes. Yes.
But like I said, for everyone listening, we're going to link all of your connections in the show notes below so that folks can follow because I know you're up to some exciting things. So we'll make sure that's connected. And then
Okay.
I always like to wrap up the show, Tammy, with this question because it's the Fuel Her Awesome show. How do you best like to fuel your awesome? That can be metaphorical or literal.
I love that question. The first thing my mind goes to is connection,
Mm,
authentic connection. That fuels me like nothing else.
so good.
Getting to see you today, my tank was so full. This morning, I had breakfast with two friends, one of whom I've been friends with for 56 years. There's
Wow.
something amazing about that connection. So I would say a moment of connection. It could literally be a moment of connection, at a grocery store, random, or it could be a very intentional connection. But I think that fills my soul.
That's
Yeah.
beautiful. I love that. Well, my cup is also filled after this conversation, Tammy. You are such a treat. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you so, so much. And here's to boy moms, right?
Yes. Cheers. I'm so glad you were here today. Let's do yourself a favor and write down at least one actionable item that you can take away from today's episode to start fueling your awesome. Here on the show, we scratch the surface of empowered eating, but if you're looking to dive in deeper, I would love to help you out with that. Head over to jessbrownrd.com. You can check out my free Empowered Eating workshop. You can take a free quiz to see if your eating style aligns with your values, or better yet, book a discovery call with me to learn more about how to further your empowered eating journey. I cannot wait to be in your ear again, cheering you on along the way. Until then, cheers and happy eating.